Hello and welcome to Midnight29's readings. Today we'll be reading A Family Question by Dark293. I have had to change the story just slightly to fit within my rules. However, you can read the story in the link below. Now, A Family Question by Dark293. Twilight Sparkle takes a deep breath, stepping around in a circle in a part of the Canterlot Royal Gardens. She was eagerly awaiting the arrival of her sister-in-law and ex-full sister, Princess Cadence, otherwise known as Princess Miyamura Cadenza, and Princess of the Crystal Empire. Though the thought of Caddy being an equestrian princess on the Crystal Empire's throne was slightly confusing to Twilight, she pays it little mind. No, in fact it was the last thing on her mind as she looks up to the Canterlot Castle where Princesses Celestia and Luna lived. She still remembers the events of defeating Nightmare Moon, Discord, Chrysalis, Sombra, 4 challenges that her friends had defeated together. Well, technically the defeating blow was done by Cadence and Shining on Chrysalis and Sombra. The purple unicorn lets out an amused chuckle at her own thoughts. While she was curious and a bit nervous of what the future held, her mind was slowly complementing on one thought. One she was obviously trying to distract herself from. The question was if Celestian, the ruler of Equestria, one who raised the sun and taught Twilight Sparkle, her own personal teacher, was also her aunt-in-law. She came to Canterlot to meet up with Cadence to ask her this question. It had been gnawing at her for quite some time, as she was very unsure. Sure, it was silly to think, and was probably... But the thought of calling her teacher family was heartwarming alone to the young unicorn. So she wanted to be absolutely positive before calling Celestia grandmother-in-law or something like that, in the next time the two met. Twilight! Twilight jumps and looks at her left, to whomever had called her name. Then she smiles, seeing just who she was waiting for. Cadence! She replies with a grin. Cadence smiles back, then glances down and puts a hoof to her mouth, giggling. Geez, Twilight, whatever this question is, it must be important enough to make you walk in a circle long enough to somehow remove an inch of stone. Twilight blinks in confusion, then looks down at her hooves. She could feel her cheeks heat up in embarrassment as she noticed about an inch of stone was indeed missing from the places she had set her hooves down on. She took as much more careful step as to not fall, and then trots over to her sister-in-law, smiling. It didn't take either of them long to know what to do next. Their signature hoof shake since Twilight was a foal. Sunshine, sunshine, ladybugs awake, clap your hoofs and do a little shake. The two mares say as they go through the body motions of their signature hoof shake, laughing as they finish. They smile at each other. Thanks for coming, Twilight. Thank you for coming, Cadence, Twilight said as she began to walk deeper into the gardens. A question has been in my mind for quite some time, ever since you married my brother. Cadence nods as she follows the young purple unicorn into the well-kept Canterlot Royal Gardens. Whatever it is, I'm sure you have good reason to think of it. So what's up? Is it about the changelings? Twilight shook her head as some birds flew by the two mares. No, it's largely consisting around the marriage between you and my brother, Shining. It's a family question, if you will. Twilight finishes rather slowly, nervous about the answer. Unfortunately for the purple mare, Cadence begins to blush as she misinterprets what the question could be. Now, Twilight, if it's about being an aunt, you do know Shining and I won't be having any foals of our own for some time, Cadence replies, feeling embarrassed. Twilight splutters and stops for a second, looking at her ex-foal sister. Cadence, it's not what I was going to ask about at all, the purple mare said quickly, blushing from her embarrassment as her ears go back against her head. Cadence stops and turns around to look at her sister-in-law, letting out a sigh of relief. Oh, good. Then I can surprise you in a few months. Cadence replies coolly, turning around and starting to walk forward again. Twilight's eyes widen and she trots to catch up to Cadence as her ears go up. Wait, are you saying you actually are pregnant, Caddy? Cadence giggles. No, not yet, Twilight. But maybe one day, she says as the purple catches up with her. Cadence looks at Twilight, whom was chuckling. So, Twily, Cadence says, why did you ask me here? What is the real family question? Twilight takes a deep breath and lets it out. Well, you know how you're Celestia's niece? She asks rather quickly. Cadence nods. Yes. Twilight looks down at her hooves and stops, pawing at the stone with her hoof. Well, since she's your aunt and you're married to my brother, does that make her my aunt-in-law? I mean, I've read the books about family connections, and all I wanted to see was to be sure that... Twilight couldn't finish her sentence, as Cadence put a hoof under her chin and lifts her head up to her look in her eyes. Yes, Twilight, that does make Celestia your aunt-in-law, she replies with a smile, seeing her favorite mare starting to freeze up and then smile brightly. Twilight escaped Cadence's hoof and wrapped her own around Caddy's neck, hugging her tightly. This is the best day ever! My teacher, Princess Celestia, is also my aunt-in-law, just like you're my sister-in-law. The unicorn let out happily, not caring if anyone overhears her. Cadence giggles and smiles at Twilight's enthusiasm, though Twilight quickly let go and smiles brightly still at Cadence. You know, Cadence says, that also makes Luna your aunt-in-law, since she is Celestia's sister. Twilight's mouth opened to speak, then closes it for a minute, shocked. She was, by law, family with all 3 princesses of Equestria? This was unbelievable, yet Cadence had just said it right now as if it was a well-known fact. The unicorn finally found her sense and shook her head quickly, slightly messing up her mane. So... Twilight starts, stuttering. I'm by law family with all 3 princesses of Equestria? Cadence nods and smiles at Twilight, as she found her shock somewhat amusing. Yes, by law, you're family with the princesses of Equestria. I'm surprised you didn't know, Twilight, she finishes, giggling. Twilight blushes. But, she starts. I checked through at least 3 different city law books, and Equestrian National Law Book, and I just wanted to ask you to be sure, she replies meekly, only then to feel the patting of a loving hoof on her head. Twilight looks up at Cadence, who smiles at her, causing Twilight to smile back. Caddy stops patting Twilight's head and starts to walk again, Twilight right behind her as Cadence thought to herself. Many more things await you, my special unicorn. One who I have had the pleasure and privilege, Cadence thought to herself, smiling widely. For she knew, after all, Twilight has been through. This was just the beginning of a long journey, one that would ignite a change and forever dictate the course of Equestria, deciding if the nation and its friendship would survive, or for Equestria to burn and its friendships to die. Cadence maidenly shakes her doubts away in her mind. Twilight and her friends have done many things few groups of friends would ever do. They are living beacons of friendship and harmony. Twilight was most certainly ready for the final step to becoming a princess. Cadence? Cadence blinks and looks down to her sister-in-law. Yes, Twilight? Twilight blushes but keeps looking at Cadence. When will you and Shining have a foal? Cadence smiles and looks to the sky. Someday, my dear sister-in-law. But when one may have their... I heard you and Shining talking, Caddy, Twilight says bluntly, causing Cadence to stop, blush, and splutter out words. Cadence looks at Twilight as her blush grows, Twilight merely smirking. Ah, Celestia, help me, Cadence utters. Tell anyone I'll hang you inside down by your tail on top of your treehouse, Cadence says, trying to be threatening despite her embarrassment. Twilight giggles aloud. Gotta catch me first, she sniggers out, and then breaks out into a gallop. Cadence widens her eyes. "Twilight!" she calls as she starts to trot, then gallop. "Twilight, you get back here!" "Nope!" she hollers before disappearing into the maze. Cadence stops and looks at the maze, chuckling as she remembers that Twilight got lost in it when she was only 14 years old. Wonder if I should tell her that Blue Blood is also her brother-in-law, Cadence thought to herself aloud. Nah, I'll let her find out instead of ruining her fun, Cadence said, as she slowly trots into the maze to find her probably now lost sister-in-law. Why ruin Twilight's mood now, when there was so much in store for the mare still? So much that this could be seen as the beginning of a story that Twilight didn't even know existed. Her own princess story. And that was A Family Question, written by Dark-Knight293. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week. Stay brony!